Hey y'all, welcome back. It is November 1st today. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like October just went by so fast. I don't know where it went, but it occurred to me yesterday that I need to film a wrap up for September and October and post it very soon. So we are here. The weather has been a little gloomy lately, and despite my excitement for the general fall season, I have also, I feel like, been feeling a little gloomy. So I'm coming to you today just as I am, in my hoodie and my hair up. I am not trying to be cute. I am asking you to accept me as I am today in my current state and current energy levels. So let's just talk about the books. I read 9 books in September and October, which is on the low to average side, I feel like, for 2 months worth. And I feel like the books that I read these last 2 months were all over the place, especially the books that I read in October. I just kind of am like, what happened? What was I reading? Like, what was going on? There was a lot of weird, there was some, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to describe what I'm feeling, but basically what I'm trying to get at is that I am in a reading slump, and I think that's also kind of contributing to why I'm not feeling super energized to talk about the books that I read. I'm just in a weird state of mind when it comes to books right now, and I'm really trying to find my way out of it. So this is a side anecdote, but I went to Target yesterday because I was going to buy the 3rd book in the Powerless series, but then I decided I'm not doing that. You'll find out why a little later in this video. And I instead purchased something else that you could see appear on my shelves because I just wanted to be happy, and looking at these on my shelf makes me happy. If you know what series this is, you probably can't see because it's blurry, but if you know, you know, and that's going to be a little Easter egg for hopefully my next video. Basically, I'm hoping that this will get me out of my reading slump, so we will see. Fingers crossed. Anyways, all that aside, let's talk about the books. So the first 3 books that I read in September were part of my Powell's reading vlog video. How many videos can I talk about this freaking video in? I know, but this will probably be the last time because I read them through the end of August into the beginning of September. So if you have not already, there are more detailed reviews in that video of each of these books. Still non-spoiler, and all my reviews in these wrap-up videos are non-spoiler as well, but they are a little bit more detailed. So if you're curious, you can definitely check out that video for these first 3 books. And the first book being Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book series is all over the internet, and actually what's funny is after I posted that video, truly the next week, I saw a video from, I think her name is Meredith. She is that I see on my homepage a lot, so I've watched a couple of her videos, and she made a video basically calling out Lauren Roberts for essentially plagiarizing the entirety of this book and kind of the series of Powerless. What she was saying is that this book is basically a kind of carbon copy of the Red Queen series, which I have never read and I had never heard about until I saw that video, but I'm gonna link her video down below because she does a side-by-side comparison of plot points, characters, politics of the world, and it was shot for shot for shot for shot for shot the same as this book. Red Queen and this book. And I was kind of shocked by that. I'm not going to get too deep into my thoughts and feelings about that. That could be its own whole video essay, but I wanted to mention it because obviously I didn't know that at the time that I reviewed this book, and I gave this book 4 stars. Now looking back and also knowing how I felt about the second book, which I'll talk about later in this video, I think I'm done with the Powerless series. I don't think I'm going to read the 3rd book. So I just wanted to put that out there as hey, I know this book is super popular right now, but there is some controversy surrounding it. So if you're curious, definitely look into that. Anyways, all that to say, I'm going to just give a quick review of my thoughts of this book. And like I said, if you want a more detailed review, you can watch my pals video. But this book is basically about Payton. She is an ordinary, meaning she does not have any magic. And she lives in a kingdom where ordinaries are basically hunted down. They're not necessarily hunted, but they do live in secret because they are technically supposed to be killed. And then there are the elites who have different types of magic. And the other main character in this book, his name is Kai. He is the future enforcer kind of of the army, I guess, and it has been his job to kind of hunt down these ordinaries and to kill them, and thus that is kind of how they meet. She lives in the slums and she robs people, so she ends up robbing him one day, and he's like, what the heck, you robbed me? And then they kind of get into a whole thing, and basically like she saves his life. It becomes a whole thing. And then basically it turns into the Hunger Games. She gets drafted into what's called the trials, where it's kind of like a celebration of the purging that happened 4 years ago. This is like a really crappy synopsis. I do a better job in the other video, but I'm trying to remember because it's been so long since I read it. So they both get drafted into this trial, and they have to compete against other elites who have magic. It's a YA romantasy, so it really mostly just focuses on the romance between these two characters, but also kind of them going through these 3 trials in the background, and then what happens at the end, who ends up winning, and kind of the fallout afterwards. And there's kind of a big cliffhanger at the end of this book that sets up the second book to potentially have a lot going on in it. I do like the theme of power that is being explored here, and how there are like different levels of powerlessness that our main character Peyton faces. I think that exploration was definitely kind of one positive that stood out to me the most, but it's kind of one of those things, much like other aspects of this book that I like, that really just kind of dropped off in the second half of the book. They're explored for maybe the first like 50 to 100 pages and then not really touched on again, and that's kind of the biggest issue that I have with this book. The romance between Kai and Peyton is the biggest part of the story, like I mentioned, and I really like the tension between them. There's like a lot of longing between the two of them, which I love, but it got a little frustrating because we didn't really get any payoff in this book. There were a lot of moments where it was like so obvious that one person likes the other. They're just like repelling magnets, like they come together and then they just push apart so abruptly, and it's like we didn't really get too much development from like one side of that to be able to understand what their motivations were, like why they weren't just like coming together. It's just kind of one of the things that I feel like is so tropey in romances, especially sort of like enemies to lovers, even though they're not enemies, but they exist in like very different classes and parts of the society that they live in. So it's just kind of annoying when that happens. One of my biggest issues with this book is that there is really no character development aside from Peyton and Kai. There are some like side characters that we get basically, like they just exist as pieces of paper that say like name, power, and general archetype of, you know, human emotion. And that's kind of just it. There could have been some moments towards the end of the book that were so much more impactful had more of these characters been developed. I also feel like my opinion on the second book is starting to cloud my judgment of the first book a little bit. I was definitely a lot more positive in my initial review of this book. I think if I did half stars, it would be like a 3.5 rounded up to 4. And when I had finished this book, I had already bought the second book because I got it on sale, and I was super excited to read it, knowing that there was so much left open-ended from the first book that we could really like just freaking, I was so excited for the second book. And that is actually the last book that I read in October, so you'll have to wait till the end of the video to hear my review of that book. But yeah, after Powerless, the 5th book that I read in my pals reading vlog was The Architecture of Happiness by Alain de Botton. This is a nonfiction book about architecture and kind of how it can influence our inner selves as people who are admirers of aesthetics, and it kind of talks about some historical context of like how certain styles have come to be. It was definitely also very kind of personal, like narrative driven by Alain himself, a lot of his lived experiences and kind of how they have made him think about architecture. This one was kind of a bit of a mixed experience for me. I picked it up because I am an interior designer by trade, that is my job, and I obviously am a lover of architecture and design, and one of my favorite components of design is the psychology behind it, like how you can walk into a space and feel something completely different based on what you're seeing with your eyes. I love the psychological element behind why we like pretty things, and so that's kind of what I thought this book was going to explore. And while it did explore that to some extent, it really was more philosophical than I expected. It definitely was very reflective and had some beautiful insights. There were some quotes that I read in my pals video that just like blew me away. I loved them so much, but they were pretty few and far between. And like I said, it was really kind of just more narrative driven, more about de Botton's kind of personal experience and his travels and some more historical context. So while I enjoyed it, there just wasn't really like a through line that kind of kept me tethered to an overall concept while I was reading it the whole time. Like that kind of went all the way from beginning to end. It kind of was just jumping around to different things that were related to architecture, which was fine. It was a quick read, you know, I had fun. I definitely appreciated how it made me more aware of my physical environment and sort of the emotional weight of that, but it's kind of something that I already felt before I read the book. If this book had been able to kind of bridge aesthetics to psychology aspect a little bit more, I definitely would have enjoyed it more. So all that being said, I gave it 3 stars. It felt like it was very average and kind of enjoyable for what it was. The last book that I read as part of that video was Sula by Toni Morrison. Wow, this book reminded me why I love Toni Morrison so much, despite before this having only read one of her books like a decade ago, and that's Song of Solomon, which I also have up on my shelf. It is because her prose is so lyrical, it is so layered, it's so dense with meaning. Every sentence is intentional. Every sentence is alive and making you think. It is just so good. Like, her writing style is one that is studied for a reason. Like, it's just beautiful. This is a book about two women who meet as children, Sula and Nell, in a small town in Ohio. It kind of follows them through many years of their life, sort of in sections, and how they kind of start out as childhood friends and what they sort of end up morphing into as their roles in society change, as their relationships with other people change, and as their relationship to like their surroundings, as they move away, as they come back, as that changes. So like it follows these two women on the surface level, how their lives kind of just diverge in opposite directions. But it's really about how friendship and their identities as Black women and sort of on a broader spectrum, like morality as a whole kind of intersect. That's the best way I feel like I can describe it. Like, it has so much depth to it, even though it's so short. I mean, this is 170 pages, and it took me about as long to read as kind of a normal, like, 250 page book. Like, it carries the emotional weight of something so much bigger than what it is, and that is why Toni Morrison is amazing. I found myself like tabbing so much. Obviously, the way that their friendship, like how she portrays female friendship in particular, I feel like this is such a nuanced take on that, how it can be both like healing and nurturing and also destructive. It just felt so raw and so real. She's writing real people that exist. She is not trying to write characters that are likable or necessarily understandable. She just lets them be in all their complexity and all of the nuances and like multifaceted things that make them who they are. That is what she wants to explore. And that is what I'm here for. That's what I love in books. That's why I love literary fiction. I want more of that. I just don't want everything to be peaches and cream all the time. It's definitely not an easy or like comforting read by any stretch of the imagination, but it is one that sticks with you. Like the ending of this book, I kept thinking about it for a couple weeks after I finished it. It's just, and same with Song of Solomon, like it's just one of those stories that kind of settles into your mind, like into your long-term memory, and really kind of, in my opinion, like reshapes how you think about the world and people, especially like in the case of this book in particular, like friendship and forgiveness. It's just so, oh my gosh, the ending of this book, so sad. Wow. So yeah, easy 5-star rating for Sula. I loved this book, and it is really making me want to prioritize reading more Toni Morrison, because this is only the second book of hers that I've read, and I think the next one on my list is probably going to be Beloved. And I know that I want to reread Song of Solomon because, like I said, it's been almost a decade since I first read it, so I really want to read it again. And the next book that I read in August was for my work book club, and I finally got to pick that month, and I had been waiting to read this book forever, and for some reason I didn't, again, know anything about it, but I thought it would be a good book club pick, and I feel like I was pretty right. That was The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff. I hope that's how you say her last name, Damoff, I'm not sure. This book is about Ryan and Lillian, a couple, and kind of their daughter, Georgette, who goes by Jet. It's really a story about their family, and there's kind of multiple POVs that happen. It kind of explores a lot of different really heavy themes like addiction and eating disorders, grief, trauma, love, like you name it, it's here. And I really like books that tend to explore these themes, especially addiction. I liked the focus on that theme specifically and how it kind of rippled out to the other people surrounding that person who's dealing with the addiction. I will say though, as a caveat, I think that there are books that do it better in a similar vein. One is The Names by Florence Knapp. I love that book. I think that book is so similar in terms of like thematic content and writing style to this book, and I do like that one better. Also, Tom Lake, as kind of like a side theme, I think Tom Lake explores really realistically and kind of raw the experience of being in the orbit of someone with addiction. So I do highly recommend those books if you're interested in a theme like that and enjoyed this book. I think this book, even though it mentioned those themes a lot, I don't necessarily think that equated to them being explored thoughtfully or with enough nuance for me personally. Like, just because a theme is present throughout a book doesn't necessarily mean like that its complexity is explored fully. I think I just wanted it to be a little bit deeper than it was for me. Again, as someone who loves literary fiction, I really, really, really wanted to get into the minds of these people and like how they're feeling at all times, rather than just like, this sucks and I'm sad. You know, does that make sense? If anybody else has read that book, I would love to know if you also feel that way. And in particular, there's one thing that a character experiences in the second act. Like, she struggles with a very real issue, and it's only mentioned like maybe 4 times, and it gets resolved off page, like no explanation. Just like years later, it's kind of brought up that it's gone. And I was kind of annoyed by that. I'm like, then why even include it if you're not gonna dig into it at all? Like, why is it a plot point if we're not going to experience how that effect ripples out within her, you know? I don't know. There were also some narrative choices that did not quite work for me. I think that those are kind of the heart of my issues with this book. I'm going to try to be very vague so that I don't spoil anything, but I do think that the POVs could have maybe been rearranged a little bit so that we could get more of a certain person's perspective throughout the book to help us maybe empathize with that character a little bit more and understand and empathize with the people around that character more as well. That's just me. In that same vein, I did really take issue with a specific narrative choice that was tied to an addiction. Like, it basically, again, being very vague, removed accountability from that character's actions, which made that the portrayal of that person dealing with addiction feel kind of careless to me. That's just me. Again, I was getting really into the nitty-gritty. And when I was talking about this at book club, the girls were understanding what I was saying, but they were also like, nobody seemed as bothered by it as me. So again, maybe that's just kind of a niche me thing. I don't know. I could just be being overly sensitive, but I definitely had a couple of issues with this book for sure. That said, the positive is that I overall enjoyed it. I've read through it really quickly and I loved the ending. I wish that more of the magic in the ending of this book had been throughout the rest of it. I think that would have really helped, whatever that sprinkle of that just made the ending so good. And I saw a lot of people on Goodreads giving this book like super high ratings, and all that they talked about was just how good the ending was. And while I agree with them, that doesn't completely make up for the other issues that this book suffered from throughout the rest of the book. Overall, I think that the author had so many thoughtful ideas and themes to explore. I just think the execution didn't quite land for me. So for that reason, I gave it 3 stars. I did like it. It just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It was like a 3.5 rounded down to a 3, to be honest. But yeah, that was The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff. And then after that, I really was just kind of like loose to read whatever I wanted, because I had my book club book, and then I had 6 books before that were part of my pals video. So I hadn't really gotten to read something that wasn't like structured or picked for me in a certain way for like a month and a half at this point. So I just picked up the most like random thing that was on my shelf that I wanted to read really bad. And that was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is a cozy fantasy book about Viv, who is an orc. She's decided to kind of leave the mercenary life behind, move away to a small town, and start a coffee shop because she discovered it somewhere and she wants to bring the pleasures and joys of drinking coffee to this, these small town folk. It follows her kind of finding a place, building up this shop, hiring employees, meeting the townsfolk, kind of getting ingrained in the local politics. And really it's just that. It's, like I said, truly a cozy fantasy. And this was super cozy. Like, this is a book that made me want a hot latte and a cinnamon roll every single time I picked it up to read it. Like, it was like a Pavlovian response. I couldn't help it. I loved the themes of found family and like getting away from an old life and an old way of living in order to settle down in a small town and like start something new. I related so much to Viv's desire to like enjoy life's simple pleasures. If you guys have been here for any amount of time, you know that I desperately want to move to Washington and do that exact same thing. So I heavily related to that aspect of Viv. I also kept thinking while I was reading this that this would make the perfect cozy video game. Like, I wish it was a video game instead of a book, because I would be playing this for hours. Like, it was so, I could just see it operating as a video game in my mind. In that same vein, like, I think the pacing was definitely on the slower side. It's very low stakes, but it fits the tone of the story. Like, that's kind of the point. It's not supposed to be high stakes. It's just supposed to be relaxing. It's about like the atmosphere and the contentment rather than like, a huge plot. And getting to know all of the townsfolk was so fun. Obviously, my favorite character is Thimble, and I really appreciate all that Travis Baldree is doing to combat anti-rat propaganda with this book. My only nitpick is that I understand what it is and what it is trying to do. I do just wish there was a little more plot. It was a little bit too low stakes for me as an enjoyer of fantasy. But again, that's purely just a taste thing. Like for what it is, like this wholesome slice of life fantasy about like finding belonging and joy, it completely succeeds. For what it is, I gave it 4 stars for what it was trying to accomplish. But again, in terms of my enjoyment, it was kind of just like, it was like average and fun, you know? I do think / know that there is a prequel that I think explores Viv in her mercenary days. So that I'm definitely interested to read, because that again seems like it's probably more high stakes. So I'll probably be picking that up if I can find it at a used bookstore. So then after Legends and Lattes, I took quite a big departure and I read Natural Beauty by Ling Huang. I think it was my Q2 wrap up where I had listened to Immaculate Conception on audiobook, and ever since I read that book, I knew that this book had come out first. This was her debut novel, I think, and I really wanted to read it. So I picked it up, and this book follows our narrator who plays the piano, and that is something that she kind of shares with her parents. They all like have this deep love and appreciation for music, and her parents had fled China from the Cultural Revolution, and so I think they're in New York. A tragic accident happens to her parents, and the main character has to kind of support them financially. So she ends up kind of getting recruited to work at this place, Holistic, and it is think of like any wellness beauty store that you know of that exists in Los Angeles, and times that by like 10. They sell like supplements and beauty products and all of this sort of like health and wellness crap that like literally change the composition of your body. Everything that a beauty product says it will do for you, this stuff like actually does. You know, it actually grows your eyelashes and, you know, turns your skin more pale. It's pretty crazy. I feel like I can't even really talk about any of the content of this book because it really just goes so many places, so many different places. So much happened in this book. Wow. This is one of the first books I think this year that I finished it and I could not process how I felt about it for weeks. I didn't write a review for this book. Like in my reading journal, I always write pretty much right after I finish a book. I'll kind of write my thoughts about it to reference when I make these videos, and also just, you know, in the future, because it helps me again process and sort of remember some of the content of the books that I read. I couldn't write anything about this book because I didn't know what to say. I was just like, wow, it was a lot. It's very intense. It's very dark. It's unsettling. It is at times outright horrific. I'm like thinking, I'm having flashbacks to reading it and just like feeling gross. But that's not to say it's not good. It was really good. It really pulled me in. Gosh, I don't even know what to say about it because I feel like my thoughts are going to be so jumbled. It's really this exploration of like her relationship with her parents through music and her identity in relation to her parents, and like how that identity changes as she takes more of these supplements, and like as her body transforms, and how that happens, how her body is ultimately then treated at the end of the story. Like, it's very disturbing, but it explores obviously like control and objectification of our bodies and our self-perception of our bodies and our us. Wow, I really don't know what to say. I feel like reading this was like existing in someone else's nightmare. Like, this was a horror. I think this is a horror book in my opinion. Oh my gosh, wow. It's very deeply reflective about societal pressures. The plot is very wild and satirical, and like it is funny, but funny in like this is like such an insane level of satire that I feel ridiculous. It's just so absurd. She is making such a sharp critique of beauty culture, and I think I can't process it because it's too real. Like, it's too, like, this is where we're heading, and I don't know. Wow, the woman she was too stunned to speak. Oh my gosh. So what I liked about this book, exploration of music, as someone who loves music and how it makes me feel like in my body, the sections about music were lovely. Like, you can tell she's a violinist, and so you can really tell, wait, she won a Grammy? Wow, she won a Grammy as part of the experiential orchestra. And this was her first novel, so like, amazing, congrats, hats off to her, because this is an incredible debut. Like I said, you can tell that her connection to music really influenced how she wrote about it in this book. Those parts are so vivid and so emotionally resonant. Like, that is the tether that I feel like her character has, both to her parents, but just to like a more grounded life in general. It's sort of what gives, in my opinion, this story like its lifeline, like the vision of like her humanity and passion. amidst all of this horror. So I really liked that. I think that Huang's exploration of women's bodies also in connection to birthing is fascinating. It's a theme that was explored in this book and also in Immaculate Conception, so it seems to be something that she's interested in exploring in her books, and I'm really curious to see if she will continue to explore that as a theme in other books. I feel like the portrayal in this book and Immaculate Conception was also so different and just interesting. Like, I like to experience what she has to say about it and about the level of control we have over our bodies when it comes to birthing. It definitely adds like a very visceral layer of complexity to her storytelling. And yeah, wow, I can't. Overall, this was a 4-star book for me. It was very unsettling. It was very satirical. It was brilliant in its character work and its thematic depth. Like, it is all there. I just think like it was just, I don't know why I couldn't give it 5 stars. I just couldn't. I think I was just really disturbed by it. And not to say it wasn't good, she's incredible. I think I just liked Immaculate Conception more. I think that I enjoyed what was being explored there in terms of the themes of like female friendship a little bit more than this. Like, this was just maybe a little bit too real for me. 4 stars for Natural Beauty. It was very good. It was just a lot. The next book that I read in October was also definitely a very big departure from Natural Beauty. For 2 weeks in October, my friend was kind of controlling the books that I was reading. So I read kind of 2 books based on her recommendation, and one of them was our book club book. So the next book that I read was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I love John Mark Comer. I've read Practicing the Way as part of a Bible study, and I really enjoyed that book. So this was my second book reading of him, and I think this is a really, really popular one. A bunch of people I know have read this book. I really enjoyed this book. I read it on my Kobo, and I read it mostly over a weekend that I was spending with my mom at her friend's house in San Antonio. We were having like a girls' weekend. So it really was actually super nice to just get away, to be sitting outside. It was right when the weather had started to cool down a little bit in the mornings, and I would just sit out there and read my coffee and like the peace and quiet, read this book and really just try to be present and emphasize being more present in my life and praying more and practicing Sabbath, like all of those things we in general just do not do because our lives are so busy and crazy. And I feel like I'm pretty good at already leading a slow life and again, like enjoying the simple pleasures of life. I definitely enjoyed a lot of the concepts that John Mark Comer was exploring in this book, and a lot of them I want to implement. I highlighted a lot from that book, but I don't have my Kobo with me, so it's hard for me to remember a lot of what I read, but there were some practices that I really wanted to implement from that book into sort of my everyday life, and it just kind of helped remind me of why I don't need to get sucked up in social media and buying stuff and feeling constantly on the go, needing to try all these new places, like to just be that person. Like, I'm just already not that person by nature. So this book really kind of helped emphasize why it's important to not try to be that person. It was just a nice, fun read again to just kind of like slow down and help me to be more present in my life and prioritize prayer and things like that that are important. So I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty good. This is the second book of his that I've read though, and I do find that he tends to kind of over-explain some topics. Like, a lot of the things that he talks about get kind of repetitive. So that's my only nitpick with his books. And again, it's nonfiction, so it's like very genre specific. It's really got to hit a certain nerve for it to be a 5 star. So I think I gave it 4 stars. Right after that, I read The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. This was our work book club pick for October, and my friend is the one who got to pick the book. And this is a classic. I mean, I'm sure that you guys have all heard of The Alchemist, and I feel like everybody has really strong feelings about it. It is about this main character, Santiago, who is a shepherd. He's the son of a priest or a preacher, and he has this recurring dream that there is treasure out there that he needs to go and find. And so basically this book is his journey, or his personal legend, as the book would call it, of him going to find this treasure. And he meets a lot of characters along the way that kind of help him in this journey. And at its heart, it is a story or kind of an exploration of what it means to follow your dreams, essentially. And I will say that this book was a little bittersweet for me. I really appreciated this sort of like lyrical, dreamlike quality of the prose here. I don't know if that comes across in the original version or if that could be somewhat of a credit to the translator for the English version. And like I said, this book at its core is about following your personal journey, like listening to your heart, not feeling trapped or bogged down by anything like your day-to-day sort of monotony of life, not being afraid to go out and do the things that you desire to do most deeply in your life. For me, it was starting a YouTube channel. I have wanted to start a YouTube channel since I was in middle school. I posted one video when I was in middle school, and never again. And I have just thought about it for years and years and years. And now here I am at the ripe age of 26, almost 27. And I finally decided to do it this year. So I definitely can relate to that message of like, what better day to start doing the thing you want to do than today? There's no other day that you have control over but the day that you are living right now. That said, I didn't fully connect with Santiago, like his journey overall. At times it felt a little bit too abstract or symbolic. Like this book is also very dense, but in a way that I feel like is almost opposite of a density like Toni Morrison, where it's dense in a very abstract and conceptual way. And so for me, I found that a little bit hard to read. I just kind of sometimes had to just let a lot of it wash over me. Like I wanted to feel a little bit more grounded within the story. I'm not sure exactly how that could be achieved. I think it's definitely one of those books that hits you differently depending on like what point of your life that you're in. But for me, it felt like a self-help book disguised as this big journey. Like the plot was just not exactly what I think I was expecting. And maybe it's just because I wasn't really in the right mindset for it, but I feel like a lot of what was being explored here, like I already know. It kind of gave me the same feelings while reading it as The Midnight Library did, where I was just kind of like, I understand the point of this book, but it's so repetitive and like I already know this and it's not being explored really deeply enough for me to be connecting to the themes. Like it's just a lot of sort of regurgitation of the same, like, don't be afraid to do what you want to do. It's like, I know that. I've got that. Why don't we talk about something else or something a little bit more deeply? So all in all, it was like a fine read. I didn't really connect with it that much. So I gave it 3 stars. And lastly, in the month of October, I read Ruthless, which is the second book in the Powerless series. And all that I can really say about this book is thank God that it is over. Guys, I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I rarely give 1-star ratings to books. I think that I have 1-star rating this year so far, maybe 2. So that being said, I rarely give them, but when I do, it is because I genuinely believe that that book is not worth the paper that it is printed on. And unfortunately, this book is no different. That is exactly where we are landed. I genuinely don't understand how people liked this book because, and I don't feel like this is a spoiler, but nothing happens in this book. Nothing happens, guys. This book is like 380 pages, okay? And for 350 pages of this book, I counted 350 from page 10 to page 360, there's basically one thing happening the whole time. There is one thing happening. It's like the same thing happening kind of just in different fonts, stretched out and filled with like snarky flirting and shared delusion that just made me want to throw this book across the room. Jesse can attest, while I was reading this book, I was like verbalizing every annoyance that I had. I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so annoying. He was just laughing at me because from basically page 50 on, I was like, what is the point of this book? What are we doing? What are we doing? What's so frustrating is like I talked about earlier in this video, the first book had real potential at the end of it. Like it left things open-ended enough to where there were so many directions that we could go, and we actually went no direction. We actually went backward. We actually stayed completely stationary for 380 pages. I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, believe you could probably read the first and the last book of the series and not read Ruthless, and you wouldn't miss anything. You wouldn't miss anything. There's one thing that happens in this book, one like big plot point that happens. It happens on the last page. The epilogue doesn't need to exist. The epilogue was so stupid. What are you saying? You're literally saying nothing. Like, guys, oh my gosh. Gosh, I'm getting really mad. I'm getting so mad thinking about this book. I saw a video on YouTube of somebody who reviewed this book. I'm gonna link it. She said when she finished this book, she genuinely thought it was rage bait. And I have never related to a feeling more. This book is rage bait. This is rage bait. I was raging when I finished this. This is a joke. Like, this book is a joke. People who liked this book, what did you like about it? Genuinely, what did you like? If you like the romance between Kai and Peyton, that's great. That's great. This didn't need to exist. Like, can we just acknowledge that this didn't need to exist? Nothing happened in this book. Like, it's just this the whole time. I don't know if I can even put that in there, but I don't care. This is just a filler book. There's no plot progression, no meaningful character development whatsoever. The same thing that happened in the first book is happening in this book, except there's less of it. There's no world building. We get introduced to 2 different cities. The map in the beginning of this book is almost like unnecessary. There's no world building. There's no fantasy in this book. There's no fantasy in this book. This is not a fantasy series, guys. I need to be done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, normally when I give, again, books a 1 star, it's because something about the content of that book offends me. But in the case of this book, it's actually just because there is no content at all. There is nothing even there to offend. I'm offended by the lack of content. Because it's like, why'd you even write that? Like, why'd you print that and think that it was good? I'm sorry. And I really am sorry to everyone who enjoyed this book. I don't want to seem like I'm yucking, but I kind of am. You should know better than to like this. I just can't. Okay, I'm done. And for that reason, I went to Target yesterday and I picked up the 3rd book because I was like, I liked enough of the 1st book to like want to know what happens in the 3rd book. And then I read the synopsis in the dust jacket and it sounded, again, just like a bunch of hullabaloo. Like, it sounds like probably nothing happens. So I think I'm just gonna look up what happens or like watch a review of it. I just don't care. I had ranted to my friend at Chili's yesterday for like 20 minutes about this book. And then when we went to Target and I picked up the 3rd book, she was like, why are you buying that? Like, you didn't like the book, but like, why do you care? She was like, why would you give her more of your money? And I was like, you know what? You're actually right. So instead I spent like way more money on a whole new book series. But anyways, so I don't think I'm gonna read the 3rd book. Anywho, I'm done. I'm done. Oh my gosh. This was supposed to be like just chill and cozy and fun, and then I went off the freaking wall. So I apologize for my anger and my outburst. I don't like wasting my time. And I think that that's why I'm so upset about this, because this was a waste of my time. This was a waste of my time and my money. And that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, that was all of September and October. I think I've also decided that I want to go back to doing quarterly wrap-ups. I explained in my last video that I was switching to wrap-ups every 2 months because it was kind of just a lot of books to handle in a quarterly. But I think that every 2 months just comes up so fast. And when I only really post about 2 videos a month, for that to be almost basically half of the percentage of my content, I would prefer to explore like other more fun video ideas versus doing the wrap-ups. So I think I'm gonna go back to quarterly wrap-ups after the end of this year, obviously, because I have November and December, and then in the new year I think I'm gonna switch back to quarterly. So yeah, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am so curious to know, now that we're like really in the fall season, what you guys are reading. I've been seeing a lot of fall reading vlogs, and I have some books on my TBR that I'm very excited about. I'm very excited for the holiday season. My birthday's coming up. There's a lot of really exciting things that are happening in the next couple months. So I hope that you guys are feeling just as excited as I am about the season. I want to know what fall books you're reading, what normal books you're reading, what are you enjoying lately, what should I read, because I'm in a reading slump right now. Also, if you guys have read these books, let me know how you felt about them. I want to know your opinions and your thoughts. If you guys agreed with my takes, if you disagreed, I would love to know. Sound off in the comments down below. All that being said, I'm now gonna go enjoy the rest of my Saturday. It got really dark all of a sudden. I think it's about to rain. I think I'm gonna go make a decaf latte, and my brother's here, so I think we're gonna play some card games. I'm just gonna have a chill rest of my day, and I'm gonna try to release some of the anger that this book caused me to experience. So yeah, that is all for my wrap up. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you would like more bookish content and rants and crazy emotions, you can find them here. So yeah, that's it. See you later. Bye.